1st, 2022 to order. The time is 7 p.m. If we could do a roll call, starting with Mr. Crawford.
Alex Crawford, board member.
Joe Margaitis, board member.
Diana Morales, board member.
Amanda Veneziano, vice chair.
Heather Pennant, chair.
Tom Barrett, superintendent.
Ali Schmeisel, secretary.
Caitlin O'Leary, business manager.
Jenny Heffernan, board clerk.
Mr. Larkin.
Michael Larkin, principal, Hebron Elementary School.
Katie Ariano, principal, Gilead.
Thank you. So if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'm sorry, we have Nikki Matthews joining us as well via conference call. Sorry, Nikki.
Nikki Matthews, board member here.
And next on the agenda is the student liaison report and student recognition. So future problem solvers Avery Holzer, Maisie LeMay, and Elizabeth Thibault.
So let's start with the future problem solvers. Mr. Parks is going to come up.
I don't know the new setup.
You can bring. We'll have the three students come up with you at the table.
Okay, come on up, guys.
We've got Avery, Maisie, and Elizabeth.
Take that out. Be like the game show host. So thank you, Dr. Barrett. Thank you, board members. I have the distinct pleasure of recognizing tonight 3 fifth grade students who work on the Future Problem Solvers program with me, FPS. And that is a very challenging program that I do with 5th and 6th graders. And so this year, these 3 ladies were on a 5th grade team together. Earlier on, they qualified for the state conference, so the Connecticut FPS competition. That in and of itself is an incredible accomplishment for 5th graders because they do go against 6th graders from all around the state. That obviously was not good enough for them. So they said, we're not just going to go to the state conference, we're going to win it. And that's exactly what they did. So Maisie, Elizabeth, and Avery are the state FPS champions in the junior division, and they will be going on to the FPS International competition at UMass June 8th through the 12th. So congratulations to them, and I have trophies for you.
Maybe move that bag.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm just speaking as a mom, you know.
I'm like the dad, I'll just make it work. Thank you.
Well, and actually one more thing. So as part of the competition, in addition to filling out a problem-solving booklet that they have to do, by the way, in a 2-hour period. So from start to finish, they start with a scenario, and as they analyze that scenario, they have to brainstorm challenges, identify one underlying problem, brainstorm solutions, identify one of those, and then turn the solution into an action plan, all in 2 hours. So at the end, that's their final product. The fun part of the state conference, as I'm sure they would tell you, is you get to present your action plan in the form of a skit, just to kind of work in some creativity. So again, nothing's good enough for them, so not only did they win the state championship, but they came in 3rd place in the skit competition as well. Wow. So congratulations, girls.
Congratulations, that's amazing.
Congratulations, ladies. We can't wait to see how well you do in the international competition.
Yes. And they get to, like, what, stay overnight for 4 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know it's parents, but, you know, it's still exciting. Great, thank you, and congratulations to you, Mr. Parks, as well for being named to the board, Invention Convention Board. So congratulations. All right.
So we do have the student liaison report.
Oh, good.
so-
Okay, good. Is it on the screen?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ani, and I'm going to be talking about Ambitious Girl. This book, Ambitious Girl, is about a girl who kept being told, you're to this or you're to that. And she was told it's okay to be ambitious by her family. How this connected to me was I remember I was always scared to be me and to be ambitious. I was always nervous to be the true me and to be who I am. Now I realize it's okay to be me and it's okay to be ambitious. I'm Sophia Rodriguez and I'm reading The Coat of Many Colors. About this book it's about a girl who her mama made a coat for her, but the kids around her made fun of her coat. The kids made fun of her coat because it was made of patches and worn material, but she realized how special her coat was after all that she went through. This is special to me because when I was little, I had a blanket, and I felt like it was embarrassing because none of my friends had a blanket, but they all had stuffed animals. When my school had stuffed animal day, I was the only one not having a stuffed animal. Kids looked at me and made fun of me, and made me feel not as special. This made me realize whatever happens to something of yours, don't be afraid or embarrassed to show what you have, and realize that it's not embarrassing to show it.
Yes, my name is Victoria, and this is a book called Don't Touch My Hair. And the book is about a girl named Aya. Aya's passionate about her hair. Everyone loves Aya's hair. They touch her hair without her permission though. Aya had nowhere to go. Everywhere Aya went, someone touched her hair. So she had to speak her mind to the people. How it connected with me is because I am black and I have curly hair. Everywhere I go, people ask to touch my hair most of the time. I say yes, but sometimes people just touch it and I tell them not to, or I ask them to ask me next time. I just stay quiet though. Sometimes a lot of people do it and I feel uncomfortable and disrespected. This is a very important lesson because it shows that actions can hurt people in a bunch of different ways. It can also make things feel uncomfortable for some people and it can affect the future.
I'm Livia Ng, and I read Abigail the Whale and I wrote something about it. So Abigail the Whale is basically about a girl who is getting bullied about her size and weight during swimming lessons. But then her swimming teacher is saying to picture the animal she would want to be during that moment. That helps her and she becomes more self-confident. When I read this book, I learned that it does not matter what you look like, but who you want to be. I also learned that you should not make fun of people or compare yourself to them. This book is amazing.
Hi, I'm Amelia Dunnels, and I picked the book In My Mosque. The book is about what happens in a little boy's mosque. A mosque is like a church building, but it's for a different culture. And how this made me think differently. book made me think differently about other people that like believe in different things. They don't have to be treated differently just because they're like that. Like they're probably gonna have a different personality than who they look on the outside, or like, so if you get to really know them, like you'll probably think that you're actually more alike to them than you think.
Oh, that was awesome. I love that. They did really good explaining that, how it represented, like, or changed their thought process. Thank you to the student council. So next is public comment. So before we get to that, so Avery, Maisie, and Elizabeth, you are welcome, more than welcome to stay here for another hour and a half. Or you're welcome to also go. So I understand that you might not, but I just want to give you that out.
So they wanted you to hit them with some real difficult questions.
Oh, okay, those are coming up. Those are coming up if you want to weigh in. All right, so next on our agenda is public comment. So the Hebron Board of Education values the public comment period as it represents an opportunity for members of the public to express their views to the board on matters within the board's authority. Procedurally, public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person, and citizens will be asked to identify themselves. All comments must be directed to the board and not to any individual board member or individual member of the administration. The board and the administration will not respond to questions or engage in dialogue during the public comment period. The board and administration will determine when and how to address questions that arise during the public comment period. So with that, is there any public comment? Oh, they really did leave. I started reading the paragraph and they were like, I'm going to go with no at this time. All right. So next on the agenda is approval of minutes. So I would like to ask for a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of February 10th, 2022, the regular meeting minutes of March 10th, 2002, and the Resource Management Committee meeting of March 10th, 2002. Do I need to read a motion? Is there a second?
Seconded.
Joe Margate seconds. Any discussion? No? Nikki? Sorry. Sorry, are you there, Nikki?
I'm here, sorry.
Okay. Oh, no, that's okay. Are you good with the minutes? Yeah. Oh, we have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes, so of February 10th, March 10th, both regular meetings, and then the Resource Management Committee meeting of March 10th. I just
Okay.
want, and we're in
Aye,
discussion.
in
I don't know if
favor.
you have any discussion. Do you have any discussion?
No.
Okay. So I'll do a roll call. Alex Crawford.
Aye.
Jeremiah Gator. Oh, I don't have to. Diana Morales.
Aye.
Amanda Veneziana.
Aye.
No, I'm Heather Bennett. Aye. Ally Schmeisel. Aye. All right, Nikki Matthews.
Aye.
All right, thank you. So the motion passes unanimously. I will do it for Jenny because she doesn't know all of us yet. And welcome Jenny. So Jenny, as many of you have heard her name, but not maybe met her in person, is our human resources
Specialist.
specialist.
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. So I'm going to ask the chair, Joe Margaitis, if he will accept the Resource Management Committee meeting minutes of January 13th, because there's not a quorum.
I do it as written.
Okay, thank you. All right, the superintendent's report.
We had quorum on the second one, Resource Management Committee.
Yeah, we voted in the first one, threw it in the first one.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I'll give you some highlights from my written report. I've been talking about the professional development we've been doing for our academic teams in our STEAM team on performance-based assessments. So the initial professional development that was planned for this year is complete. The school resource memorandum of agreement with the town was approved by the Board of Selectmen, and so that's all signed and finalized. So we have a 3-year extension starting this next July, so we'll be in good shape for quite a while. Our team has begun drafting the end-of-year status updates in the district advancement plan. We'll be working with the Student Growth and District Advancement Committee next week to talk about the reflection of the year and to begin to make some plans for next year. And then we'll present that to the full board at the summer retreat. I don't have a lot to update around COVID operations. The plan continues to move forward to return to full use of the cafeterias for next week. There has been a rise in cases in the state, but locally we're not seeing a huge uptick in our school. If you look at our dashboard, there are cases reflected, and they're slightly more than they were before break, but we're feeling okay about continuing with our phased-in approach. Other items of interest, so the Region 8 Health Insurance Consortium appointed a committee to review and revise the bylaws, which is a requirement in the bylaws every 5 years. I'm chairing this committee. We are reviewing and suggesting changes, and at this point it's gone out for a legal review, and that's come back, and we're going to consider a first read of the updated bylaws at our May meeting, a second reading and adoption in June, so that it can go back to the respective boards of all the entities that will also have to approve them. So it's quite a process. So that'll likely come to the policy committee in the fall, and then to the full board. We really want to have that approved November or December. So we just want to have that on our radar. You heard me talk about our reserves in our health insurance account. And part of the bylaw work has been to establish a new article on how to manage the reserves responsibly. The reserves are why we're able to achieve a negative 6% insurance rate renewal this year, which is great for our budget, but it's also great for our staff, myself included, because our rates go down just like the rates go down for the board. I know this is probably old news for you all, but the Board of Finance deposited money into our non-lapsing account. As you know, we worked to get money back from Social Security Administration for overpayment of FICA taxes, and so a partial deposit was made, and the town is getting some legal advice about some of the remaining funds. And pending the outcome of that, would potentially deposit the remaining amount. So the numbers are detailed in my written report. And I know there'll be more discussion about budget and Board of Finance a little bit later under the chair report, so I'll stop there. Enrollment, I know we're always interested in enrollment. We talk about it every month. So we hit a milestone, or a new benchmark for ourselves this month. If we include our outplaced students, we hit a total of 700, which is the first time in quite a number of years, and represents a now 10% increase over the last 2 years. It really is a testament to the quality education we provide in town. People routinely cite the quality of the schools and their reason to move to town, and our budget supports continuing to meet the needs of our students as we have this increase in our population. The kindergarten numbers, I know that that's something of interest for folks. As of today, we have 76 students enrolled in kindergarten, or registered for kindergarten, rather. We're watching that number really closely. It's still, I mean, that'll be the bulk of our students, but there's always continued enrollment over the next several months into September. So, right now we're tracking close to be at the projection that STAC projected for us right now. When we developed the budget, we were thinking we would be slightly over the projection. Right now, I would say we're tracking pretty similar to what the projection is. Preschool, I know we're going to talk about preschool more later in the agenda, but right now the wait list has 34 slots on the wait list. However, some students are on multiple wait lists. So that it is 20 total students that are represented on the wait list at this time. And that concludes my report for tonight.
All right, thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. In your packet is the April updated NESDEC projection. So along with your regular monthly enrollment report, you also have the updated spring NESDEC projections in there.
Thank you. Joe Martinez?
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay, sorry. All right, we're good to move on. Thank you.
You are welcome.
All right, and then next is the business manager's report, Ms. O'Leary.
All right. So I'll get started under my first section, which is technology. These bullets are really bullets that have carried over from a couple of months, but we have, through our FCC funding, we were able to now distribute the Chromebooks that have come in. So those were distributed almost entirely to families in the past couple of weeks. We're still waiting on our iPads to arrive. They're just held up with supply chain issues, so we're waiting on that, but we have requested a drawdown of funding for the federal government. This is a reimbursement, so we purchase with general fund dollars, will be reimbursed for those purchases that we need. We had another small grant through technology that we went after for some additional equipment for board meetings and other community meetings, and that was awarded this past month, so $3,851 for that, so nice celebration there. And then my third bullet is just around the speakers for those single stall bathrooms. We had talked about that. That's now scheduled to happen in the final weeks of June, so it was a safety concern that was brought up that we're going to be addressing, and it'll be all set at the end of June, so that's good. Our facilities department, really the past month, the focus was really around purging some old, broken, obsolete furniture pieces that were really at the point of being unusable in our garage and in one of our classrooms that we've used for storage for several years, so we're making space for additional classroom space for the upcoming year. And our facilities director has also worked with the Parks and Rec department to take a look at the condition of some of the nature trails in the back of Gilead Hills School to see what work needs to be done to clean up some of the paths so it can be usable for our students here. So between that and then just some, late season snow and working on the boilers, that was the big work of March for facilities. Transportation seems to be our plan to reduce a bus is working. So we're continuing to run 11 buses as planned. There haven't been as many interruptions at all. So it's really been moving forward well. We will be sending out mid-month, next month, we'll be sending out transportation forms home to families, so just keep your eyes open for those. So families who will request a pickup or drop off, that's not their home address, those go home every year. So this is just a heads up to expect those in the next couple of weeks. Under student activities accounts, I've highlighted some of the items here. Our school teams have been taking a look at what sort of donations that they've received over the past couple of years and really looking at ways to utilize those funds by meeting with their teacher teams and seeing creative ways to support student needs in the building. So you can see some of the detail I've included in my report about how they've expended some of those funds. Under food service, March was quite an incredible month under food service. You see that the reimbursement that we got for all of the meals that we served in March was $51,500, which just compared to our other highest month that we have between this year and last year, it was October of this year, $37,000. So they have been working very hard, especially since for the majority of the month we were still packaging all meals and sending them off to students. So we really thank them for all of their very hard work. That being said, because of such the high utilization of the cafeteria program, we're in really good place financially with that program. If you look at the financial report, it looks like we have a $15,000 deficit, but we know we have funds coming in for March that still haven't hit, April, May, and some of June. In addition to that, we have a $17,000 supply. This is not in your report. This is late breaking. $17,000 supply chain grant that's being distributed from the State Department of Ed. Just because we experience supply chain shortages, so we get to access those funds and can use them through all of next year. The focus of that money has to be on purchase of domestic goods. So it could be local, or it could be, just throughout the U.S., fruits, vegetables, grains, milk. So we'll definitely use that funding. So that's great news. My next section is preschool, and I know that you have that under old business this meeting, so I'm just going to pass by that, and if you have questions about this month's report, I'll just feel free to answer them whenever you see fit tonight. Not a lot of update for you around grants. I still have no word on the security grant submitted back in June, so that pile of paperwork sits on my desk waiting. Just waiting to be asked for additional information. I already spoke about this PEDIA grant that we received for technology. And then the third bullet is just a heads up that our IDEA grant is due to the state mid-May. So I'm working closely with Dr. Briere on finalizing some of that. And then under the fiscal section, I'm looking at this bullet saying the audit is complete, and I guess I should have provided a little bit more detail there. The state single audit is complete. So I have that also printed on my desk. I have a meeting set up with Elaine Griffin May 11th, so we're gonna sit down and go over it together and really come up with a sort of summary to share out to both of our respective boards. So I can share more with you after that meeting. Because we got a lot of coronavirus relief funding, we hit a certain threshold that requires us to undergo a federal single audit. So I'm in the midst of working with our auditors on providing some paperwork around that federal single audit. And then there's some additional EFS testing. So for our state, CSDE reporting, I'll need to do some work. So it continues. And then the very last part of this fiscal section here just draws your attention to my final two attachments, which is our year-to-date expenditure report. So we currently have an uncommitted balance of $203,000 report, which is about 1.5% of our overall budget. You see some of the account codes are over budget, and they're identified by being highlighted in orange. And I've sort of explained that here. There's some items that are over budget because they were immediate needs. So we moved forward with those purchases and are looking for some balance transfers to bring those back to zero. And then just some other places where we have some revenue coming in, so the revenue will offset the negative balances. But there's more detail there. If you have any questions about any of that, I'm happy to answer. And then the final piece is the transfer request, which we reviewed in the Resource Management Committee meeting. So I'd allow Mr. Margaitis to speak to that a little bit. And I just realized I forgot to mention, we will, back to food service, we need to be voting on the food service language this month around the healthy food certification. Mrs. Pettit's favorite part.
Yes, I look forward to these motions every year. So we can stop there for 1 second, so I'll get these out of the way.
Yep, and that's it for me.
Good thing, all of them left from the first paragraph. So we vote on these every year from the state, and it's just to say whether or not we're going to be part of really providing healthy food options and also allow for exemptions as needed. So they are big motions, so I will make the motion and then just ask for a second unless somebody else wants to repeat it, and they're more than welcome to. But it has to be the state on record, has to have this exact language or it doesn't count. So that's why it has to be exact to this. So.
And this impacts our reimbursement.
The letter that explains it is also in the packet. Okay, so I would like to make a motion to approve the healthy food option for the 2022-2023 school year pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Section 10-215F. The Board of Education or governing authority certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in the schools under its jurisdiction and not exempted from the Connecticut nutrition standards published by the Connecticut Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards during the period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. The certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups.
Second that.
Thank you.
Could you repeat that?
That's not funny because the next one's longer. Is there any discussion? All right, I'll do a roll call. Nikki Matthews.
Aye.
Alex Crawford.
Aye.
Joe Margetta.
Aye.
Diane Morales.
Aye.
Amanda Veneziano.
Aye.
Heather Pettit. Aye. Ally Schmeisel.
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Good times for this next one. All right. I would like to make a motion to approve the food and beverage exemptions for the 2022-2023 school year. The Board of Education will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards and beverages not listed in Section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. 1. The sale is in connection with page 3 of 3. No, sorry. Oh, boy.
Skip over to with an event.
What?
So page 3 of 3, Connecticut State Department of Education should not be part of the motion. That was my error when I cut and pasted this from the document. I apologize.
I think you did that on purpose. I'm going to start over. All right. Motion to approve the food and beverage exemptions for the 2022-2023 school year. The Board of Education will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards and beverages not listed in Section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. And 3, the food and beverage items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, and interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The regular school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held and must be the same place as the food and beverage sales.
Second.
Thank you.
Was that Amanda?
Amanda Veneziano, second.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any discussion? No. All right, so we'll do roll call. Nikki Matthews.
Aye.
Alex Crawford.
Aye.
Joe Margetta.
Aye.
Diane Morales.
Aye.
Amanda Veneziano.
Aye.
Heather Pettit, aye. Ally Schweikel.
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay.
So I also failed to mention one of my other bullets under food services. I apologize.
Okay.
I can just jump in.
Sure.
So we've had 2 years now of free breakfast and lunch for students. The previous at least 2 years before COVID, there was sort of a no increase to meal prices at that time. So we talked a little bit about this last year. It ended up being a non-issue because we continued with another year of free meals. But this year I'm going to recommend again for us to look at increasing the meal pricing. It was $2.90 pre-pandemic, and the request is to increase to $3.25. And that's looking at EastCon's completion of the paid lunch equity tool that we had discussed, for those of you who were here, discussed last year. So we had sort of taken a look at area districts. This dollar amount was falling right within what people were charging pre-pandemic. With the completion of that paid lunch equity tool, it continues to fall within the same guidelines. And it'll bring us much closer to a place where this program can be self-sustaining.
I'll just jump in here too and just note that, so right now, and Ms. Lillard, please correct me if I'm wrong, but we're getting more than $4.50
Yes.
reimbursement for lunches. And pre-pandemic, we were running a deficit in the food service program, and then we had to, the board would have to pay off that debt each year and budget to pay off that debt. I don't believe we budgeted anything for next year for food service debt, or it was greatly reduced if we did. Because we knew we would have some additional revenue from this year to carry into next year, was the logic behind that. But $2.90 is not gonna sustain the food service program moving forward. So it really is a decision for the board to decide whether or not you want to increase the price to have less deficit, because at some point the excess funds will not be there. We will exhaust them, and we'll be looking at having to make a contribution to the food service department to keep them in the black.
Anyone else?
Quick question, when does the free meal option end? Is that the end of this calendar year? And when is the option to start charging families going to start? Is it?
Yeah, so that, it will end at the end of this school year. And right now there is some talk of trying to continue, but I don't know how much traction it's gaining at this time. But at this point, as of today, free meals end at the end of this school year, and paid meals begin the first day of school.
Like, I understand the logic of it. I understand why we would need to. We need to have a self-sustaining program. But I also do worry about our families. And I know right now is a really hard time for several people. You know, people are out of work, have been affected, and the prices of things are going up, which also does affect us as well, because we have to buy food and we don't get it at a discount. But I do worry that that price would be a lot for, you know, some of our families. So I think if we do vote to increase it, I would just like assurance. I know we have a policy that everyone will get meals still, Yeah.
and that they'll be taken care of. And I think the other option is if we don't raise it and we do run into a deficit, we need to go to our town and our Board of Finance and, you know, let them know this is a need. And, you know, they have stated so many times that they're going to support our students and the school and our families and our taxpayers, and I think we could call on them to pay the deficit if need be.
So I'm happy to speak to the to some of that. So the policy committee did some really good work to revise the food service policy this year, I think, to address some of the outdated language in the policy. We also had revised the administrative regulations around gifts and grants to accept donations to pay off people's food service debt if they were in need. And we are pretty active on the local hunger action team, and they have been very supportive of when we've approached them with a need, whether it be a food need or otherwise. They have assisted families that are in need that maybe didn't qualify for free and reduced lunch in the past. It's been kind of a non-issue for the last 2 years because we've had the free meals, but that was a practice that we started after I arrived. We do have various ways to support anybody in need, and of course free and reduced meals would continue for families that have that need, but we have that other support system through the Hunger Action Team as well.
Would the families have to apply, like they would have to let the school know that they need help for their child to get a meal, or will the child be able to get a meal if there's no communication with the family? Or
we would communicate with the family. I mean, we're not going to let any student go hungry, but we would communicate with the family. We'll need to do some additional communication around the application process for free and reduced meals too, because like we haven't, I mean, it's been happening, but.
Yeah, we're required to send out that application announcement to all families at the beginning of every school year. So it has gone. Few families have applied because I think they know that regardless of their application status, they would receive it. So we'll just have to be really thoughtful about communicating it this coming year and make sure people are aware of the change.
But we would, like, if a student was starting to incur debt that was not being paid off, we have outreach to the family that's really outlined under the food service policy. And when we've run into incidents where a family has run up some food service debt and they're really not able to pay off that debt, we usually will, on their behalf, go to the Hunger Action Team and solicit a donation for them. And like I said, every time we've done that, they've been happy to oblige.
Is there any, have you heard of like them changing the free and reduced lunch guidelines to have maybe more families be able to utilize that?
No.
All right, so Caitlin's asking for a motion, so I don't know how everyone feels. I understand, right, we don't want to be in the red, but I understand what everyone else's concerns are in regard to like where families might be at. I do agree, as Mr. Leichter has said repeatedly, that the board can ask for a supplemental appropriation if needed, if we fall into that category. I don't know if I feel good at $3.25 personally. I'll just speak for myself. I think I'd feel better being at $3. You know, like, so I don't know. We could do $3.25 and then just go to the Board of Finance, or we could cover it somehow. Like with the, we have a lot of community partners, not, you know, obviously the Hunger Action Team, but other folks as well. I think that would donate. So I'm willing to, I will make the motion as Ms. Leary asked, and then we can have discussion. So a motion to increase the meal price from $2.90 to $3.25 starting school year 2022-2023.
Seconded.
All right, Joe Margaitis seconds. Okay, discussion.
So I just want to clarify, so we're looking at $3.25 based on your research from 2 years ago, prior to the pandemic.
I also did that research again in preparation for this meeting, and nothing has changed because nobody's been charging for meals. So
right.
So $3.25 was the average price per meal 2 years ago.
Okay. Oh.
So if it's going any direction, it would be going up.
Yeah.
It would be going up from here.
Yeah, I personally would feel comfortable at $3.25 knowing that this was the mark pre-pandemic. We know the cost of everything has gone up. I completely agree with Amanda, with Diane, well, everybody. I mean, I understand it can be very hurtful at this time. And I think as a board, I think we all feel that if we end up with families under pressure, then we'll do the right thing. But it's a hard cost, and you know,
Yeah.
pay for it.
So I just want to add one more thing, and like I get that this is something we need to do, and this was 2 years ago, and the cost is probably going to escalate, and next year you'll probably be coming for us for $4. So I get that. I just ask that we communicate this, that we do have a hunger action team to families, and I will say, like, you know, for everyone in this room, I think we can go and buy groceries and, you know, for food lunch, but you don't always know, and there may be families who are struggling but don't want to say something. And I would hate for a mom or a dad, you know, to be in a hard time and be embarrassed to fill out an application, or to be embarrassed to, you know, reach out to one of our wonderful principals and say, hey, you know, uncle, I need help, like, you know, I'm underwater here. And sometimes people are prideful and they don't want to ask for help, and I understand that. So I just think if we are going to do this, and reality, no one has school lunches in their budgets right now, right? Like, I don't think about it because they're free. The kids just go to school and eat. So no one's budgeting for that right now. So next year that is going to be a hit. Whether you can afford it or not, you're still adding a line item in your personal budget. So I think we need to be thoughtful to communicate, like, hey, if this is too much and you don't qualify, we can help. And I think we just need to say that so we're not stressing people out who don't want to ask for help.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe make a suggestion to Amanda's point, to have this communication go out like with a bus form, like early enough, because it will be something that, like she said, you know,
Right, they need to
families will
prepare
be prepared for, right? So anything that involves like the start of next calendar year, I think parents are getting prepared for that now. It's very important. My fear is a child going hungry during the day. That's just the bottom line, and I don't think that's acceptable in any parent's mind, or whatever the situation might be. So I would like to kind of feel comfortable that a child, if whatever the forms are, the parents didn't send in the form, or they were embarrassed to say that they needed help, are we going to feed that child? That's
Yeah.
Is
Yes.
it our policy?
Yes.
Is it our
Feed 'em.
policy to
Yeah.
feed
Yep.
them?
Yes.
That's
No
all I
matter
want to
what.
be comfortable with.
Yep.
So as long as we have that in place, then I'm good.
Okay.
Was there
I did have one
was there-
question about, Diana made me think of it. So I know like a lot of people put in, or, you know, some families put in money in, or did prior to everything being free, into accounts, right? Like the online, like,
Right.
we're not counting that as revenue, right? We're kind of letting it sit there, because it's really not revenue, right? It's their funds, right? It's not revenue we're bringing in, it's funds paying for food. I just want to make sure we're not counting that as revenue.
Yes, you're right.
You're not?
No.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure.
I just want to get clear. Was there a second to the motion, Joe?
Like I just,
Okay.
yeah. All right, is there any more discussion? All right. Nikki Matthews. I'm doing roll call, sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
Alex Crawford, Jim Davis.
Aye.
Hannah Brown.
Aye.
Miranda Manizano.
Aye.
Heather Pettit, aye. Ally Schmeisel.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. At least you didn't say 450. All right, so next is the line item transfers. So I'll make a motion and then, or actually I'll let the chair, Jim Davis, speak to it.
So during the Resource Management Committee meeting this evening, we went through the line items, transfers presented by Ms. O'Leary, line by line, and my recommendation is to approve as written.
All right. Second. All right, that's his motion.
Oh, is that your motion? I just seconded you.
No, thank you.
I don't think you said motion.
I didn't, but.
He's going to change it now to motion to accept them as presented. All right, Joe, Amanda seconds. Any discussion? All right, roll call. Nikki Matthews? Alex Cochran?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Anne Rowe?
Aye.
Aye.
Zero. Aye. Ally Schmeisel?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes unanimously, thank you. All right, the chair's report. start with some good news. And that is we have Staff Appreciation Week, starting the week of May 2nd. You know, with COVID, the last few years, we haven't really been able to, you know, do what we used to do for all the faculty and staff at the schools. It was really kind of like, we might, you know, get something and it was given to them on their behalf, but we really did like to see them personally, to thank them. So I am happy to say that this year we were able to bring back kind of our staff appreciation breakfast and what we used to do, and it was several years ago now, but one at Gilead and one at Hebron Elementary School, 2 different days that week, and the board would serve them. So we have kind of like a buffet of breakfast items, and the board would serve the staff as they came through. So that is on Wednesday, May 4th, and Thursday, May 5th. And we don't have to have the whole board there for either of those days, but I can only do one day just due to a conflict with an appointment, which is May 4th, but I don't know if some folks can do May 4th along with me, and then a couple for May 5th. Please just email Rachel and let her know if you're available. And it's starting at like 7:45, so
Yeah.
like before the teachers like have kiddos in their classroom. So it'll be early and probably what, an hour or so, hour and a half maybe. Okay, that was the good news. So as you're all probably aware, we had, or the Board of Finance had its public hearing on the budget on Tuesday. So at first I want to thank all the families and all of the parents and community members and the board and, you know, faculty and staff that came out and spoke in favor and in support of our budget and not having it be cut by the Board of Finance. We had several wonderful people come on and just really give us their support, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate all the hard work, of course, that Ms. O'Leary has done and Dr. Baird in regard to presenting and making changes multiple times. Although we had all these people come out, or I shouldn't say we had, they came out in support of our budget, and I think the board as well for coming out. The Board of Finance still decided to cut the Board of Education budget $250,000 for 2022-2023. Even though we've had a 10% increase in enrollment over the last 2 years, if it passes in referendum on May 3rd, we will have to find cuts after that time. You know, I think Mr. Leichter on the Board of Finance spoke to possible second referendum or even more after that, you know. So I'm not sure what will happen at the May 3rd referendum, but that being said, we have to wait and see before we figure out what we're going to do for the next school year going forward. So we will not make any final cuts until after the final referendum where a budget is approved. As you know, there is no option. We cannot cut a section in 5th grade because it will go over our class sizes. And that's not something that I know, I don't want to speak for the board, but I know we've talked about in the past that we would even fathom. The reason folks come to our town and why we have this 10% increase in the last 2 years is because of our wonderful schools, because of our faculty and staff, because of our reasonably small class sizes, and, you know, cutting that section would put us over. Honestly, we are in a time where we have kids that need to learn self-regulation. They have a lot of things going on from the pandemic that, as you know, have increased learning loss that still needs to be addressed. And this is not a time to max our class sizes out and hope that 3 or 4 kids don't enroll between now and September 1st, or whenever the first day of school is.
Or throughout the school year.
Or throughout the school year. It's not fair to our families, and it's certainly not fair to our children, and it's not fair to our faculty and staff. So I am very disappointed that they didn't really take into consideration anyone that came out and actually spoke towards the budget, and that this is still what is the final result as of this time. So we'll wait and see what happens after that. You know, there was a lot of talk, and I'll get to that in a little bit here, about our enrollment. So it seems to be very important to them. So I want to make sure it's important to us as well. So I just hope that things look different in the future. And that is the budget update. So committee updates. Policy committee. Oh, yes, Dr. Baird.
So I just want to speak to policy committee briefly. So for committee members, which is Heather and Allie, you have your packet for our meeting next week. So homework assignment is to look through those policies before the meeting, and we will have more discussion next week.
Thank you. So our next policy committee meeting is Thursday of April 28th. Resource management committee, Jeremiah spoke a little bit to it, but if you want to.
Sure, so we did discuss the line item transfers. Had a slight discussion regarding the 22-23 budget, but at this point there's no action we can take. Again, with a 10% increase in student population and the trend with kindergarten, 76 registered at this point, continuing to track that, so no further actions can be taken at this time.
Thank you. Student Growth and District Advancement Committee, Nikki Matthews.
Be meeting next week.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
Just wanted to
Oh,
remind you
yes,
about-
I'm sorry, yes.
I
I'm
didn't
sorry, Diana. I still like thinking about budget, to be honest. And Diana Ralph had reached out to me between our last meeting and now, and would like to be part of the Student Growth and District Advancement Committee, so I'm going to appoint her as a member right this second. And so she will be a member going forward. And this is good, because we haven't had our first meeting yet.
That's perfect.
Since, well, a while ago. So it'll be good. Thank you very much. All right, communications and community engagement committee.
We have not met, but if we could schedule a meeting for after the referendum to communicate, like once we have a game plan, we're gonna need to communicate out.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. The negotiations committee, so can't say too much about that, but we are still ongoing negotiations with non-certified bargaining group. We started, we just had one organizational meeting, but we are starting negotiations with the teachers, and that's where we're at on that. PTA liaison.
They have book fairs coming up, need volunteers. It would be great to help them. This is their first book fair in person since everything closed, so very exciting time for them.
School readiness.
I was unable to attend. Mrs. Siriano, would you have an update?
We're finalizing the grant and making sure we have all our collaborative agreements. And then our next meeting is next Tuesday, and we will be reviewing the grant grading that was done by members of our committee.
And we have all 18 slots filled
For next year?
Yeah.
We do.
Okay, thanks.
It's at least 17. I think maybe we're still waiting on the 18.
Okay. Thank you. Ally Schmeisel, Wellness Committee.
May we table that update? I actually had to miss the meeting and Dr. Briere is unable
sure.
to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks.
sure.
Thanks.
And Shared Service Advisory Group. We have not met yet. All right. So old business. We have we have preschool expansion under old business. I did ask Dr. Baird and Ms. O'Leary to kind of give us an update on what the numbers might look like if we move forward with expansion. And we have a handout.
I'll pass this out and I'll speak to it. So this is really our district advancement plan update for tonight. Our team's been focused on this, so that's why we did not have a separate presentation. So what you have in front of you is a variation of what was presented in the fall. So I know that some members were not with us at that board meeting because they weren't on the board yet, but we presented a pretty comprehensive plan for the expansion of preschool. And that is on our website if you're interested. And so what we did is we took one of the slides and we are presenting a modified version of what we presented. And the reason why it's modified is really the timing. So we have already done the lottery, we have the half-day program set up, and in the full expansion model, we moved to full-day programming pretty exclusively with some maybe limited half-day options. So we're not able to do that right now because we've already done the lottery for a half-day program. We didn't feel like that'd be fair to families. We talked a lot in that fall presentation around addressing some of the inequities for students with disabilities and that exist in the current programming. So we offer a half-day program to meet the requirements. But we would like to expand it, and that was part of why we were expanding to a full-day program for all. So what we've done here is we have expanded the half-day program from 4 days a week to 5 days a week. So that brings us, well, it helps address some of the inequities that are in the existing program. We've then added an additional classroom for full day. So we would be servicing an additional 17 students. There are 20 students on the wait list, so this does not get to all 20 students. And it could be that some students who are in the half-day program on the wait list may then choose the full day if that's the only option, but that's what we would propose at this point. So that's how the numbers are calculated. The additional staffing that would be required, I'm gonna let Ms. O'Leary speak to. So if you turn the page over, so that's how the program would look. 5 days a week, half-day program, so adding an additional day, and then adding an additional classroom for full day for 17 students. But I'll let Ms. O'Leary now take over for the finances.
Sure. So if you take a look at the right-hand side of the second side of the page, you see a chart there that outlines all of the costs a little bit more broken down than on the previous page. The first thing is a $30,000 expense, and that's the net cost of transitioning a dean of students position to an assistant principal. So we had talked about that back when we originally presented, so that remains. We currently have budgeted for 4 classroom teachers. We obviously need the 5th classroom teacher. And in this new model with a 5-day-a-week program, one of those 4 teachers that is existing currently provides services for our students with IEPs. Those students are primarily in that one classroom. Now we're talking about a 5-day-a-week program, which doesn't leave any time for PPTs or anything like that. And additionally, the students are more spread out amongst all of the classes. So that's why we're adding in an additional special education teacher. So 5 classroom teachers and a special education teacher. And then we have 5 paraprofessionals, so there's 1 para assigned to each classroom. That's a NESDEC requirement based on our staff to student ratios. And we had in some detail last we talked about some of the logistics around where our classrooms that have bathrooms inside them are. Right now there's a kindergarten classroom in one of those rooms. That kindergarten room has to be displaced and moved elsewhere. So we would need to add on a paraprofessional in one of the kindergarten classrooms just to make sure that there's somebody to bring those students to and from the bathroom throughout the day. So that's a sixth para. Also with this new plan, there are some issues related to lunch coverage before the paras are just like at max capacity, providing coverage for each other throughout their lunch break. So we would need to add in a halftime para. Our school readiness clerk is an expense that is currently budgeted and will be budgeted, and then you just see the payroll taxes. So in total, our new plan is $938,000 for staffing. We have the next sort of block down, you see a $15,000 for furniture. That's a one-time expense. That's obviously this year, and then we don't need to do that again. But then the final block is this ongoing investment. So we purchased the snacks for the preschool program. This is the newly calculated cost with 78 full-time equivalent students. Supply purchases for our $500 for each of the 6 teachers that we would have. There would be an increased cost to a special education van right now. That is something that's budgeted. It's not something we talked about in our preschool presentation last time around, but now that we're talking about adding that extra day, it played into sort of like the new figures. So we've added that here as part of this calculation. Professional development and the school readiness liaison. Those are all ongoing expenses. So in total, you see all the way at the bottom on the right-hand side, this program under this new design, the cost of it is $985,000.
And I'm going to stop you before you get into the tuition pieces. Yep. So what other change from the fall is that we originally had budgeted in our proposal for a storage unit because we were going to need to displace our classroom that we had been using for storage. But because of the due diligence of our custodial team and the great spring cleaning they have done, that's no longer a need. So we've reduced that out. The other one-time expense that is still a real expense is the additional playscape, the additional playground space, which is really desirable even if we were not expanding the program. That is slated to be funded by the town American Rescue Plan funds, but they need to go to a town meeting. It will be time before that is constructed. So it is, I think it is unlikely that it will be in place before next spring or summer 23, if we're being realistic of the timeline of that going to town meeting, it being approved, it being planned out. I mean, planning is happening right now at Gilead for that playscape, but just being realistic and knowing you're not going to install a playscape in January, I think that it's more realistic that we're looking at about a year out from now. So that is now not included in this proposal because we know that it's moving forward on the town side.
Question? So, thank you. So, on the paraprofessional for toileting 1, I understand that's because we're moving classrooms. Have we considered the option of retrofitting a bathroom into a classroom, just because this is going to be an ongoing expense with benefits, which is going to run $50,000 a year?
I think that should be something that should be brought up during our facility study, because I think that there are multiple places that we'd want to construct putting a bathroom for our youngest students here. But I'm on the same page as you on that one.
Like it, like how you think.
So just to finish sort of going through this page, if you go back to the left-hand side, that first light blue box just shows a summary of that total breakdown. So you saw the detail on the right-hand side. We just went through the left-hand side, just a summary of it. The second light blue box shows you, I titled it No Tuition Increase with an asterisk. Because the half-day program moving from a 4-day to a 5-day week program, we did take the full day tuition and just cut it in half, and that's not what it currently is. It's currently 80% of half of the tuition because of the 4-day-a-week program. So leaving full day tuition as it is and having half day tuition be half of full day tuition, you sort of see the breakdown. Our grants cover $162,000 of the total expense. Tuition would cover $358,000, and the general fund would carry $464,000 worth of those expenses. This would change the current budget that you have proposed by $252,000. If you were to consider a tuition increase, that's sort of that third box over, that's a $7,500 tuition, and you see, if I just jump to the bottom, it changes the additional funding needed to $155,000 from $252,000.
So if I can just speak on that piece, I'm not in favor of increasing tuition at all. I really wasn't in favor of increasing it earlier, and at this point, you know, given the times that we're in and asking everyone to live within their means, I cannot see raising tuition at all. I would say, you know, the funding of $252,372 is the angle I'd be pushing for.
Yeah, just the one day, because they would be actually coming an extra day.
Right.
But I agree.
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't want to do the third box. I agree. The no tuition increase. So the $252,372.
And Heather, just one more point. The main driver for this is also, you know, the fact that we're keeping children out of the magnet schools as well, because once you get into that climate, I think you're getting dropped off, you're kind of getting used to that schools, and then you're going to be in there throughout your educational career. So I think the more children within Hebron, within our community, that we can support with our own school system, the better off we're going to be.
I agree. Dana Ralls.
I would like some clarity around the situation that we're in with the Board of Finance not approving our total general, funding that we needed. How is this going to play within the addition, funding that we're gonna need? So, because I think that's gonna determine which box we have to go with. If it's gonna be a matter of like, can we even have an additional classroom to support 17 more families versus having none, because we're not gonna get approval. Like, I just want some clarity around that.
I'm glad you asked that question.
Thank you.
I'm ready to answer that question. So I am very thankful of the custodial staff for their spring cleaning, where we now have a room. My suggestion and motion would be, and I won't make the motion now, but yes, so they cut us $250,000. They also were very public in their concern about our enrollment. We have said over the last 2 years that the reason that we didn't have kids on the waiting list was because of COVID, masks, some things in place. And now that those restrictions have lifted and more people are sending their little ones to school, we now are back where we were. We knew we would be, to be quite honest, or I felt I knew we would be, with 20 kids, 35 slots on a wait list. And so, because the Board of Finance also expressed their concern about enrollment and said, Mr. Leichter said multiple times that we could go to them and ask for a supplemental appropriation. The town themselves went last year, or this year, I don't remember which, so I don't want to say for sure, 3 times to ask for a supplemental appropriation. So my thought, and what I would, obviously we cannot use non-lapsing account money because we don't even have enough non-lapsing account money to cover a $250,000 cut, and that's not including the special ed costs that we didn't know about when we did our budget, that Dr. Baird wrote the town about, and then we wrote a formal letter to let the Board of Finance know that we had these excess costs, over $100,000. And so there's no way we'd be able to use those funds. So my suggestion is to ask the Board of Finance for a supplemental appropriation to fund preschool expansion by one classroom. Ally Schmeisel.
Just one question and then just one point. So with the increased capacity, does that impact the capacity of our school readiness slots, or do they stay at the 18? Okay.
Yeah, it does not.
Okay. And then just in some additional context, again, I'm not in favor of a tuition increase because again, for any family that needs before and after school care, again, prep has the monopoly on that.
Yeah.
And I think that for many families, it could price them out because the prep program also has its own tuition. So if we're talking about a $750-ish increase, I'd be very concerned about that for some families.
I did also want to say one more thing. I'm sorry. I wrote myself a note to say and I forgot to say it. But the town also finds itself with, I believe, and don't quote me because I think they are trying to move some of it to debt management, but about an 18% unfunded balance, which, to be honest, kind of frustrates me because they're cutting our Board of Ed budget by $250,000 when we need a teacher. But so, I mean, there's also those funds. So I think when we're talking about a supplemental increase, I think it's not a hard ask to be able to service more families in our town. We've talked many times, even faculty, Dr. Baird here, God bless you, about the benefits of pre-K, having certified staff with these kids. It starts them on the right track. They're already ahead. They're not like trying to catch up, especially kids that have been not in any preschool because of COVID. Really, it really sets them up for future success. So I'm just gonna say it. So I am going to make a motion to request a supplemental appropriation from the Board of Finance in the amount of $252,372 for the purpose of expanding preschool for the 2022-2023 school year.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Awesome.
Joanna Morales seconds. Is there a discussion?
I did have one more question, just because I'm making me think of specials. Does this staffing model allow for these kids to have access to specials in pre-K?
No, but the current model also does not allow for that. So our preschool program right now does not participate in
At all?
Does not.
Because I didn't mind. Okay, I'm just want to be clear. Okay.
Yeah, but the increase in sections overall at Gilead, and when we changed the schedule, it did not allow for preschool to continue with the UAG team.
Okay.
Do they do specials during the day? I'm sure they do, right?
Our UA teachers do video lessons or set up the space and then they go and still have their special teaching.
Okay.
Well, for what it's worth, I didn't realize that. I should have known that. I apologize. I think it's a huge asset for our preschool kids to be able to, this is my own personal opinion, I can't speak on behalf of the board, but it's a wonderful experience for them to have access to that programming in any way possible. My own children benefited from it, and so I just want to throw that out there.
One quick question on the times. Have the times changed? I know we had some changes during COVID times when my middle child was attending pre-K, but I was wondering if anything is changing with the 22-23 school year.
There is no plan to change the times. What we're finding is the parking lot and the traffic pattern cannot support a change in times. We need preschool to get picked up and out of the parking lot before other families come to pick up at the end of the day for K through 2.
Okay, so it's still 8:45 and then 2:45 for pickup, just to confirm?
2:30.
2:30?
Yeah.
Okay, it is 2:30. Thanks.
Yeah, and this team has their planning time at the end of the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we add to the motion or have a second motion or just discussion on, I think, Mr. Margaitis as resource management should make the ask to the Board of Finance?
Well, it would be a letter from the board, all of us, per charter.
Okay.
So it'd be like an ask from the Board of Ed. So if the board votes right now in majority to ask for the supplemental, it'll be from, and we can all sign it if we would like.
Yeah,
Thank you, Amanda.
I have a thought process.
So I just want to give my, we've been talking about this since I've been on this, this board, and it really is the right thing to do. It's giving more access to families in town. I myself have utilized so many different preschool programs in the area, just due to the lottery. And, we see families that end up outside of what should be offered in our town. And even this setup today, you still will not be able to service every single family, but it certainly is a step in the right direction.
Agreed.
I have one more. I don't know if this is appropriate to ask, but is Mrs. Uriano okay with this? Like, this is
I
your
was just
school,
thinking
we're
that. I
adding.
appreciate you saying that. I was just
Right.
thinking that.
Not to put you on the spot, but are you
Totally
okay?
just did.
I did, I'm sorry.
I will do whatever you think possible.
That's a very good politically correct answer.
We have figured out solutions to the challenges that this would throw our way, so if it is approved, we will put those solutions in place.
Okay.
I would just speak to timing. So we really could not move forward with implementing the program until we have funds on hand.
Agreed.
So we don't know the timeline for how the Board of Finance would act on this. So we can certainly notify families on the wait list that this is a request that's been made. There are some things that we would need to do logistically to set ourselves up to be able to move quickly once we knew of a final decision. But we would not be able to move forward until we have the funding in hand.
No, certainly.
Yeah.
So, excuse me,
I know.
sorry. Can we make like a condition of some sort of a deadline, so the Board of Finance might say, well, we want to think about it for the next several months. Families are waiting. It's not like families can get a time slot, in a daycare center or somewhere else. If we're waiting too long to give them an answer, like we kind of needed. So I think we should put some sort of a timeline, like we would need to hear by. I don't know if you guys agree.
So I wouldn't put a timeline in, but I would stress the urgency of the families in town who are,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're
Well, I think a lot
taxpayers,
of
they-
families came last night to speak on the public hearing, and I don't think that really went far,
right. So I think we put in the letter from the Board of Ed,
right,
the fact that we have 20 children.
waiting.
And then we
Waiting
know
at this
that it's important to them, our
Mhm.
enrollment.
Enrollment's highly important to all of us.
We can certainly share to all families the request too, to make them aware that the board
I
has
think-
asked
I
the
think
Board
we
of
can put
Finance.
that out so families know that the ask has been made. Through
Yeah.
school messenger and maybe social media.
The other thing that I'll just say is that when I was talking to one of our preschool teachers today, and they were asking some questions about the plan, I said, like, well, until the money's in hand, we would likely not be able to move forward until then. And they shared with me that when they started in preschool, it was not on the first day of school. They got an announcement about a grant on convocation day, and the classroom was not opened up until October. So while ideally September 1st or first day of school would be when we would like for this program to come up and running, if we get word later and we're still hiring staff, I mean, there's nothing to say we couldn't start it later in the year. And there often are students on the wait list after the school year begins. So I think that would just be our plan. Like, once we know, we'll put some things in place where we can move forward more quickly. Furniture, I mean, that supply chain, like, that's a concern. So, I think that as we continue to work on the budget, the Resource Management Committee will be meeting. Once we know what the referendum is, once we start hearing from the Board of Finance, there may be some things that we can do sooner rather than later, so that we can move expeditiously once we have the full funding.
And I think that's, a good reason why we're starting now, because yes, it's next fiscal year, but they're gonna need a meeting or possibly two. But we could, let families know that, we will let them know when the Board of Finance will be discussing it, so if they would like to attend as well. And the board should probably attend as well. If they so vote that way. Any other discussion? Nikki? I forget
Nope, I don't have anything.
Okay. All right, so with that, I am going to, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second from Diana. Joe made a motion, Diana made a second. So I'm gonna do a roll call. Nikki Matthews?
Aye.
Alex Crawford?
Aye.
Joe Margaitis?
Aye.
Diana Ralph?
Aye.
Emily Zena?
Aye.
Heather Pettit? Aye. Alison Smeisel?
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously, so we'll draft a letter from all of us. I'll send the draft to the board, and then we'll send it to the Board of Finance within a week.
I know we don't have electronic signatures for everybody, so what we can do is Rachel can email out when it's ready for people to come and sign it.
Yes, or if you send me, if you sign,
Actually,
I'm just gonna say this, if you sign a white piece of paper and send it to me, I can make your signature and send it to them.
or just do it today
Oh,
before you
good.
leave.
Yeah,
We'll
they
give
can
them
scan
to
it and-
Dave, who I think made mine, and we can get that moving a
Oh,
little bit
perfect.
faster.
We just need a blank white paper. Thank you. All right, is there any new business? Thank you all very much. Is there any new business anyone would like to see on the agenda for next meeting at this time? No? Okay. Board member comments? Any board member comments this time?
I would like to.
Oh, I'm gonna give these out.
So over the past few months, we've had, our budget hearings that we've done here. We've gone through our budget as a board, and then, we went and presented it. The chair, myself, and Dr. Baird presented it to the town, as per charter. And we have been to several meetings since. And there's been a lot of things said within meetings. And I just personally wanted to thank Dr. Baird and Ms. O'Leary for just how you carry yourself, the integrity that you have. And I know that anything you put forward to us is 100% accurate. And, I said it the other night, you can't buy a pencil without Miss O'Leary knowing. I truly mean that. You're on top of it. Anytime we've asked for anything, you're there. And just, I know we have, our teachers union here tonight. Just thank you for, express to the staff how much we truly do appreciate them. And the budget hearings are in no way how none of that is from us. And as a board, we love our staff, our principals, and just really to Dr. Baird and Miss O'Leary. You guys are both incredible, the hours you have put into this, and just really how you carry yourself with such integrity. And it's just an honor to serve on a board under, with you. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Appreciate it.
Diana
I
Ralph?
just want to sort of not repeat what Amanda is saying, but I'm new to the board, like some of my teammates are new. I felt like during the budget season, we all sat down and sort of went page by page. It was very thorough, the process. I found it. I'm in the business world. I do this for a living. And I also want to thank Dr. Baird and all of his staff, actually, the principals too, everyone here. Everyone really works hard for our kids, and I just want the public to really know that everything that went into detail, we all looked at it. There was many, many eyes, so there was nothing that hasn't been overlooked and checked 3 times. So when we presented, I thought it was a very, very fair, we deducted actually before we presented, which I thought was pretty awesome that we even found that alleviation to present a really good budget to the Board of Finance. So it was very disappointing to see the results, and I just wanted to say that in person because I didn't get to see you on the last meeting. So thank you very much for that, and I hope you guys know that we're all in support of the team here at both schools. So that's all I have to say.
One quick comment. So agreeing with Amanda and Diana, absolutely. I think the amount of time and effort everybody put into this budget, we've reviewed the budget, we went line by line, we asked questions, we had people come in. I thought we were very thorough, which is our job. That's what we do. And I think the number we came up with was a bare bones budget, and I think we all agreed upon that. And I am thoroughly disappointed in the result of that meeting. I think what we had was very fair. I'm not quite understanding the reality of the number that they put together for $250,000 cut. Doesn't seem to follow much logic, so. But bottom line is, I think we have a great community here in this town. I think we will do the right thing. We're always going to be supportive of our children and our educators and everybody, so we'll come out okay.
Agreed. Anyone else? I agree, but I already said my piece during the chair report, so if no other comments, I will adjourn the meeting at 8:31 p.m. Thank you all very much.